We all have our childhood sweethearts, and we all tend to get caught up in the moment as we even make the decision to marry them in the future as well. However, be careful when it comes to choosing the woman that you would have to spend the rest of your life with, or you'll end up losing the very life that you were looking forward to spending because of her. Today's story is a chilling tale that did not see its conclusion until a good few decades had passed. However, we are happy to finally provide you with the tantalizing conclusion. Greetings, salutations, and welcome to our channel. Today we're here to cover the story of Michael Williams. As always, before we begin, make sure to press that like button and subscribe to support our channel so we can bring you more quality stories like this. Also, if you don't want to miss a single one of our uploads, press the bell notification button and turn on YouTube notifications on your smartphone. Without further ado, let's dive straight into the story, as we get into the time period of December 2000, in the capital city in Florida that goes by the name of Tallahassee. It is no secret that everybody in the neighborhood considered Michael Williams to be the perfect life. If you could think it, he had it. What inspired many people around him more than anything was his marriage, which some people thought was blessed by an eternal spell of good luck. It is safe to say that Mike ensured that his public image was admirable and strong. He was considered a loving father, a caring husband, and more than anything, an extrovert that cared about everyone around him. He was living the dream of most people, as he was happily married to his high school sweetheart as well, and most people saw it as a match made in heaven. There was nothing that could break their bond apart, or at least that is what everybody thought. Of course, what Mike loved and cared more than anything else in the world is his adorable daughter. To add to the amazing company that he had in his life, he also had a best friend named Brian, that he trusted in terms of everything. Many considered Mike to be living his best life, at least until the dreadful situation occurred. Mike's wife, who goes by the name of Denise, woke up in the morning in order to greet her beloved husband. As soon as they woke up, they spent some time with each other. After all, Mike had no work that day, and he had the time to do anything that he desired. After spending time with his wife, he decided to go to the local river in order to take part in some duck hunting. Of course, being the lovey-dovey couple that they were, they could not stay without each other for long. So Mike promised that he would be back before the sun sets. However, time passed as the sun had begun to set, and there was no sign of Mike yet. Denise was calm yet patient. Maybe he decided to stay for an extra couple of hours. In order to not be presumptuous, she decided to give him some more time. However, when the clouds covered the dark sky and a significant amount of time had passed, Denise naturally assumed the worst, as she remembered that this evening was also the day of her 6th anniversary. Realizing that she has to jump into action, she began searching for her husband. And the first thing she did was call her father, who was the only other man that she considered to be her rock. He immediately offered to help. Denise began to ask around, as she called all of her friends to see if he was crashing in any of their houses. Even after all the inquiries and searching, there was no sign of Mike. Deciding to not waste any more time, Denise's father immediately called up the police authorities and notified them of the situation. But they immediately countered with the fact that it has not been 24 hours yet, as they practically dismissed the case for now. Deciding that they had no time to persuade the police to start searching, Denise's father took initiative as he went around on his own to search. After the claimed 24 hours had passed, police got into action as they started a wide-scale search. The first person that made the scene was Florida Fish and Wildlife Officer David Emmett. He arrived by the lake as he began his investigation. There were no signs of clues at any corner, and oddly enough, there was no sign of a body either. However, David decided to start a thorough investigation soon enough. As the day went by and the night came, they called the search off for now as they left for home, waiting for the investigations to reach out and give them some good news. The next day, an even larger group decided to make their way to the lake as they finally made some headway, as they discovered Mike's boat practically in the middle of nowhere. They made their way to the boat only to be surprised at the times that they managed to recover. The first question that popped into the heads of many was that Mike left the boat completely unattended, which was not normal. The equipment that he usually carried for duck hunting could all be found in the boat that they discovered, in the form of some decoys, a shotgun still inside its case, and a few other pieces of hunting gear. Realizing that one or two people are not enough to make headway in this case, David took it upon himself to call a whole team that could search every nook and cranny of the lake in order to find more evidence that would point towards the disappearance of Mike. The first people to arrive on the scene were the search and rescue divers that began to search the lake from the inside. When the divers failed to produce any results, they called in helicopters and law enforcement officers to increase the radius of the search beyond the lake. With the lack of a body and other significant evidence, people have started to believe that Mike orchestrated all of this in order to run away from home. However, as time passed, and because they could find no clues, the state had officially declared the case to be closed. Florida fish and wildlife investigators, however, presented the family with a hypothetical reason that could be the case of the disappearance of Mike Williams. The investigators claimed that fishermen's waders could have caused him to be pulled down into the waters, and even though he was a good swimmer, he might have found himself in a tough situation as the waters happened to be infested with alligators. Of course, if you get caught by the jaws of one, it is instant death, and through this, they expected to provide closure to Mike's family. While Denise accepted this and supposedly moved on, there was one person that had their doubts regarding this claim, and that was none other than Mike's mother, Cheryl, who happened to know her son better than anyone else. She knew exactly how many years of experience that Mike had with duck hunting, and she knew that he knew how to make his way through these waters, and most suspiciously, if anyone gets eaten by an alligator, the body ends up showing up sooner or later. So why is that not the case with this situation? Further investigation even showed that the alligators were in a state of hibernation during the time of the incident as well. However, 6 months later, Devaney found himself called back to the scene when a random hat appeared in the water. What was even more weird was when the hat appeared to surface from nowhere, the same spot where they found Mike's boat. It was safe to say that the case was getting more peculiar by the second. The investigators did not want to make the wrong assumption, so they decided to take the hat to Brian, his best friend, for the sake of identification. Brian Winchester had been Mike's best friend for years, and the only one that could recognize his hat would be him. However, he ended up not making any conclusive statements, and the DNA tests were done afterwards, but they weren't conclusive as well. As time passed, the Tallahassee Democrat newspaper started noticing this matter as they sent their best and brightest, Jennifer Portman, to do her own investigation of the situation. She only had to take one look at the clues to realize that the clues looked too new to have been in the waters for 6 months. Since the river was covered in algae, and the evidence did not have a single scrub of it on it, it was a good logical argument to make. However, as tragic as all of this is, the resolution of this unsolved mystery has finally arrived, and in order to look at it, we must first take a look at the widow of the story, Denise. She claimed that she was too shocked to actively take part in any search, and since she was a single mother of a young girl, she had no time to do so. However, what caused suspicions to rise was when Denise immediately requested the state to announce her husband Mark to be dead within the first 6 months of his death, even if the law asked him to wait for 5 years before declaring that person to be dead. It was quite the unusual request, especially from someone who was supposed to be a grieving widow. The worst part of it? She did not even inform Mike's mother about her request. Of course, her request did not come to pass, since the state requires either evidence of a person's death or the 5 years to pass. The most mysterious part was that after the state let her know that she needed proof of her husband's death, items of her husband started appearing by the lake every now and then, and she decided to submit each and every one of them to the state as evidence in order to get the certificate early. Of course, all of this started to make sense when they found out that Brian sold insurance for a living, and that he had convinced Denise to buy one for Mike. Before Mike bought the first insurance of his, he asked his boss, Clay Ketchum, for advice. And since Denise would be the benefactor in this case of his death, all questions were suddenly pointed towards her. The best part? After a round of questioning, Mike's boss ended up revealing that Mike and Denise had some marital problems as they fought just a few months before Mike disappeared. With the new information at hand, police connected the dots and realized that Mike could be faking his death to gain the insurance money. However, the whole situation came to light when Denise and Brian decided to get married, and she immediately claimed the $1.5 million insurance money. Over time, Denise and Brian got into their own fair share of fights, as it even escalated to the point of Brian kidnapping Denise and her child, keeping the child at gunpoint while threatening her that he will kill himself. After Brian went to jail, the entire truth came out almost immediately. Mike's body was finally recovered in 2017. In the December of 2019, Denise was convicted for first-degree murder. Brian spilled the beans, and the world found out the truth. Denise had been cheating on Mike with his best friend Brian for several months. Their relationship came to the point of Brian scheming of killing Mike and running away with her. Of course, deciding to use the opportunity to obtain some additional benefits, she also made a plan to acquire the $1.5 million worth of insurance money as well. Sounds evil, right? Well, make sure that you don't make the same mistakes as Mike and marry someone sensible that loves you truly. We have now reached the end of today's video. Did you like the story? For more interesting stories like this, subscribe to our channel and press that bell button to get an update every single time we upload a new video. Make sure to like this video and share it with your friends and family. Thanks for watching, and see you all next time.